Und ich switche jetzt wieder ins Englische für unsere Talkrunde. While we've been talking about enabling enterprises to better focus on their customers, let's now talk a little bit about those enterprises being SAP's customers. Bob Stutz, in the past, there were some loud voices from the SAP customer community. We are not being heard. Some are really unhappy. So what is your take on this, and how important is customer feedback to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. I agree. I think that we didn't do a good job of listening and understanding what customers really were trying to do and how they were trying to, grow their business and deal with problems in their business and helping them with building the right solutions to make that possible. And I think, in this past year, we've strived really hard to listen to our customers, to understand what they're doing, and really take the time to understand, process, and be able to come out with a roadmap that actually reflects what our customers are trying to do and where they're trying to go.
Daniela, was that something that you heard from the DSAG base, that people said we're not being heard?
Definitely, definitely. That's something what we had from a lot of customers, a lot of members of DSAG. That they're not heard, they do not feel understood. And I think we are on a good way now that all these feedback get collected also in different surveys and stuff like that. And also to get this feedback together and aligned with the SAP and to support with that through that feedback the process and the solution to bring it in the right direction. Especially as we have the point, you do not have just feedback from IT-related departments. You also need the feedback, especially in this whole CRM environment. Let me call it like this. You need the feedback and the input also from the departments who are working with it, because they are much, carefully said, they're much closer to that because they are working with that, or they shall work with it on a day-to-day base. And that means that there has to be a joy of use. They must have a nice experience, that they see the value from that. And therefore, it's very critical that also customers really define what is needed, what are the pain points they have, what is something they are missing, and let me say, as more specified or precise the feedback is, as better it can be transferred by DSAG or especially SAP into the solution.
So the information that can be collected by DSAG and then channeled to SAP. Well, listening to the customer is important at any time, but now we face very special times. Let's look at the challenges of the current Corona situation. What challenges does the situation pose for companies when it comes to customer experience? Whoever wants to answer first.
Yeah, maybe I can start. So what's obvious and what we all can experience by now is like that the current situation just accelerates what we already experienced. So digital transformation goes much faster. Ralf already mentioned also in his presentation before. And we just get requirements in a much shorter time than we expected them to get them in whatever scenarios. So we, for us, can differentiate also between the direct contacts to the customers. So in marketing, in the service scenarios, there's just a higher payload for all these channels. And on the other side, we have very specialized customer teams, especially in automotive, you can imagine, that were just used to talk to each other, to meet each other. And this collaboration and this transparency can now only be assured by digital solutions with platforms where they can collaborate instead of meeting each day at the customer side and in their own groups.
Daniela.
Yeah, we have always see it with different companies or several companies. You know, all the physical touch points are not there anymore. So, for example, fairs do not take place at the moment, and they won't for the for a while still. And also for sales, the physical touch points do not exist. So that's something where we have to transfer this digital experience into a complete digital world. So that does not mean that I can say, I just transfer and say we do that now digital. There has to be a lot of changes coming with it along. So you have to change the mindset, or also the strategy behind it, the workflow and stuff like that, because the digital experience you have to build is not the same, and that's something what is very tricky, because a lot of companies have, of course, not been prepared for that and have to speed up right now to get that up and running.
Ralf, does that already cover it all?
Yeah, pretty much. I do think, as similar as I said before, I do think that companies are massively shifting budgets sometimes from, specifically in marketing, from classical advertising to marketing processes and systems. And this all the facts that Uwe has been saying, all the service and sales scenarios, but particularly currently, at least what we see is in marketing. What they are trying to do, and they are yelling for support and help for people who do understand media processes, for example. Make a deep dive in processes and find some way to, I've showed you the whole enchilada of different applications which are in the market. So they're all yelling and looking for people who do understand the basic processes, are able to develop solution sketches, blueprints with them. So the pressure, the heat is on, and I guess everybody's looking for new business scenarios and business models. Plus, as Bob already said, all the B2B companies are moving into some sort of B2B2C scenarios. So if also people producing machinery, they now open up e-commerce facilities. So it all goes into one direction, direct to consumer, all digitalized, and getting the data in place. And this is a journey depending on the legacy you have them still being around.
Bob, how is SAP responding to these challenges, to these changes with CX?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the biggest thing is listening to our customers, whether they're big customers, small customers, understanding the issues and really having empathy around what they're going through, and understanding what solutions that need to be built and built quickly and get to the market to help them to drive their business and continue to thrive. Because, I mean, look, let's be clear, there's a lot of businesses that are suffering in this time and who don't have the right solutions to actually drive their business forward. And for us, it's critical that all businesses, whether small or big, have the right solutions to be able to really survive and thrive in this new world we're living in today.
Speaking of solutions, just yesterday you have launched a new product at the SAP CX Live, the CDP, the Customer Data Platform. You've already mentioned it. It's been talked about before today. Can you please tell us a bit more about the idea behind it and what the benefits are for SAP customers?
Yeah, I think, CDP is a term that's out there. I don't think it accurately describes, but it is the industry standard term. But for us, it's really about having a place where you really have a unified customer profile. And what I mean by that is the ability to bring online, offline data together in a way that, you have a living, breathing, profile of a consumer customer that is true at the moment, right? Because we live in moments today, right? A customer interaction happens in a moment, right? It's not some static thing that happens. It happens in that moment. And being able to have that right data at that moment when you interact with that customer or consumer is absolutely critical. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to serve your customer very well. And for us, it's about tying everything together. Not only first party, second party, third party data, but known, unknown data, but also going beyond that, right? Our customers, one of the things that SAP, and I think people don't fully comprehend that, You know, other competitors in our business, they're like islands. They don't have to think about those back-end processes and tying everything together at the end of the day. When they build software, they build it in a way that they really don't care, right? It's up to the customer to figure out how to integrate all that stuff together. For us, we have to think about that. Even with the CDP, we have to think about how do we tie S4, supply chain, other things together with what we build. And I think that's the critical piece that we have with our CDP is we've thought about all those things. We've thought about the end-to-end and not just about a few simple marketing processes at the end of the day.
Uwe, at Bosch, is CDP something you're looking forward to?
Well, definitely. As I ended up my presentation with, it's one of the major or main challenges to get all this data together. I was talking about a digital user with our master data, to have it in one business division, in one central place, but even across business divisions, as GDPR can be conform with that. And for us, I mean, we already started to have a proof of concept with Customer Data Cloud. So we are, of course, now very curious, also since yesterday, what will CDP bring us, how they two belong together, and maybe also to put a question to you, Bob, like how do you expect the CDP to be, well, in a position in this landscape? Do we rather have a kind of basic, always there layer, having CDP as the basis for the other solutions, or will it rather be like at the end of what you are doing, nice to have add-on to do it even better than you did before?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually, and it's one that I think every customer wants to know is where does CDP really fit at the end of the day into an environment? And, you know, and to talk about the CDC, you know, Customer Data Cloud and CDP, let me just say that, you know, the CDC layer, we actually took that layer and that platform and we used that as the basis for building out our CDP, which really, because if you think about it, you know, the CDC today, if you're using that product, you already develop a profile. But what we wanted to do was expand that and be able to make it even bigger, which is why we used it as a starting point for building out the CDP. I think a lot of people think about CDP as an add-on and something nice to have, but I will tell you that the future of CX and the CX world is really about having the CDP at the center of everything, right? You need to be able to understand your consumers and customers at that point of interaction, right, in real time. That is very critical. And you cannot do that unless you put the CDP in the center of your environment, because that is really the key to providing the right data at the right time to whether it's a salesperson, a service person, on an e-commerce site, on a website when you're browsing. It is really the place where you will have and be able to provide at that moment the right data to make your customer know that you understand him and that you present them with the right things that they really want at the end of the day, and not a bunch of garbage, which is what really happens today with a lot of companies.
There we go back to shoes that are not your size, right?
Absolutely.
Ralf, you hold several roles in international advisory boards, mentioned it before. You are in relationships with many global and regional companies. How do you experience digital transformation, and what would you see as a must to provide from transformation partners like SAP?
Good question. I do think a couple of things. So let me look on the one side on solution management, the product, as well as on the go-to-market side. I do think on the, Bob mentioned it before, on the solution side, I need to have integration scenarios, since the variety of different applications I'm trying to connect to will even further increase in future. Number two, I need to have some sort of clear product strategy to say on the app platform layer, which will be solutions or partially solutions or functionalities which I'm going to include directly, or which other solutions will be delivered out of the ecosystem in terms of a marketplace or something like that. Just be clear on that. And number three on the solution side or the product side is getting people on board really who do understand marketing processes, deep knowledge of how really organizations work. And this goes all the back to the go-to-market side, the sales side, the field side, is we need to have more people who really do understand processes in detail. It's not just like taking, and Uwe said it pretty good before, not taking a couple of buzzwords on a flip chart or a PowerPoint chart, but you need to get somebody on the table who doesn't understand in detail. So one of my colleagues is teaching me currently everything around media planning and media management, from demand-side platforms to customer attribution and all that stuff, which is you need to have somebody who does understand in detail on the product side as well as on the go-to-market side. And this means also from the field force, from the go-to-market, I need to have different skill sets. All the things we discussed so far are pretty much triggered out of the line of business. So it's not triggered primarily out of IT anymore, but there's a need on the internal customer side, on the line of business. There's a need also from a transformation partner like SAP, people then in the field who really are capable of teaming up with the head of marketing, online marketing, or however the role is then basically articulated, and give them advice to help them really find the right solutions out of the 8,000 different applications and really make crystal clear how SAP might be fitting in that. I do think one of the worst problems we currently have in all those markets is that people are running around and all PowerPoint charts are loaded with buzzwords. And if you just ask 2 questions on that, for example, how do you do marketing spend optimization? Is it a regression analysis, factor analysis, discriminant analysis? They even cannot answer. So it means basically you have not understood the buzzword you're trying to sell to me. And so what we need to have in the field and as a transformation partner with SAP, people who really are good in content, do understand processes, and particularly I need a couple of guys who can do that. Since the old model, which we've been running earlier, is that 5, 7, 8 people go to a customer is not acceptable anymore. If you would end up at the office of a CMO with 8 people and everybody of those guys has just one sort of functionality, it doesn't work. So I need to have more general colleagues who can go out and discuss marketing strategy and processes on a process side, plus help really all the line of business develop their own master construction plan. And this is a challenge on the skill side, on the people side, as well as in what Bob has been saying on the solution end.
Bob, is SAP up to the task? Do you accept this challenge?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we've been showing that this year that, you know, look, digital transformation is a hard thing at the end of the day for customers. And I will say that, you know, as a software provider, it's up to us to help to provide the right solutions to enable that at the end of the day. But we shouldn't forget that digital transformation is more than just about software at the end of the day. Sure. Digital transformation is about companies have to reinvent their processes. They have to change the way they do business. And more importantly, they have to train their people the right way to really, you know, do business in a digital world, right? And I can't tell you, even today, it still amazes me with all the great technology that's out there and the solutions that are provided, that companies still have poor customer service in this digital age. And that's really because companies, they think that technology is going to solve all their problems at the end of the day. And I have to say, it doesn't. What solves the problems is training your people the right way to interact with consumers and customers and using the technology as an enabler to help them to be able to do that.
Uwe, Bosch is a very innovative company, and that reflects also on your digital transformation. What would you recommend to other companies, given your experience, to focus on, and where do you see the most important digital trends to follow?
Yeah, so that's a very broad question, but let me try to get this in the answer. So first, I mean, there are very basic things. Talking about digital transformation just gets us thinking of, well, we want to do something fancy, future-driven, and so on. But it all starts already with what you already have. So think of your current system landscape and how does it look like? I mean, often it's even a very good first step to clean up what you have. We've been heard like there's a huge number of new solutions on the market, and then you somehow want to integrate the ones you choose. But thinking of integration, it will put you lots of requirements and efforts if you have a vast system landscape. So maybe what you already experienced, integration, C4C to ERP. If you have more than 20 ERP systems, the effort will be much higher than if you spend the effort before to somehow consolidate, and then you have an integration to maybe 1 or 2 or 3 ERP systems instead of this whole set of what you had before. So one very important goal also for us at Bosch is to reduce complexity. And often reduction of complexity goes along with the standardization of what you have or what you do by now. And having done this, you can start like checking for new modules, new solutions that go in some specific areas in a kind of modularization that you can use very good if you already have done the preparation before. So for us, it will be very important to continue this path that we already started, also towards the S4 transformation and introduction at Bosch, and to benefit from a good basis to then go ahead and continue with some more topics that have already mentioned also from the other speakers.
When you look at trends such as chatbots and artificial intelligence, what role will they play in customer relationship management in the future? You have examples from your own company.
Yes, well, that's a very significant part, I would say, of what comes next. Because we've heard like there's even more workload, there's just more traffic on all the channels and even more requirements. And you can imagine also in these times where it's not that easy to enlarge your workforce, of course it needs to be somehow efficient and transparent within your company. And to gain this efficiency, I would say, as also shown in this very small and for us initial use case with the machine learning, efficiency comes if you somehow automate what you already have. So either automating based on a certain logic, or you have AI or something like chatbots that can do the simple tasks just by configuring and learning and implementing them instead of spending even more resources on a long run. So I think especially AI and machine learning in parts and then chatbots can just improve efficiency in these areas.
Daniela, how important is digital sales and digital marketing, and where do you see key elements for a successful execution?
Well, digital sales and digital marketing turns into a very important topic. And also why a lot of things are going around that since a while, so you have so many different elements on that. I think it's very crucial not to go for a complete package of everything what you have available for digital sales and digital marketing. Every company has to see what is needed and what brings benefit to it from an end-to-end perspective. What do they want to reach, to whom they want to reach out, and what is the experience they want to provide to their customers. And here you have, of course, you have the B2B to C, but of course you have kind of differentiation between B2C and B2B still, because their companies are just working B2B, and of course they cannot go for the same things like B2C, and that wouldn't make sense. And especially when you go for these parts like digital sales, you have to get the people to the point that they do the journey with you. You have to get the right mindset to go for the digital sales elements and to deep dive in this kind of channel and to make it successful. And therefore, it's very important to really have a look in which way, what kind of elements of digital sales, digital marketing fit to your company.
How do you see that importance, Uwe?
Well, it's definitely as Daniela says, and you can imagine, like, I mean, what we often experience, you have your B2C business and the people just get used to something, and their B2C experience often gets what they expect in B2B at the end. So it's not like you can serve them with whatever technical interface and so on, but our experience in B2C, let's say it like that, becomes our expectation for B2B. So that's getting very close together, even if still the processes and the tools may stay a little different. The expectation is just arising also in this B2B market very fast by this effect.
Let's touch user experience and simplicity for a moment. Ralf, how important are those in the context of digital marketing?
Yeah, I guess pretty important. What Bob is already saying also before. I guess everybody's looking, so the entire landscape is extremely complex. So everybody's looking for a silver bullet to reduce complexity and finding their own solutions and own ways forward. So in particularly talking to the line of business, they are not willing to further accept additional new buzzwords. If it's in something like in memory technologies. I once had a customer workshop in an insurance company, and they had a brilliant workshop on a technical layer on in memory technologies. Then 7 guys out of the marketing department turned around and said, "We have no freaking idea what they're all talking about." I said, "It's faster, it's better for you." Ah, okay, got it. So basically, we're missing the point. So instead of hiding ourselves behind buzzwords, making it transparent and communicated in a clear way so that somebody, the receiver, might also be able to receive the message. So it's reducing complexity in terms of landscape, in terms of use cases, application scenarios, and really teaming up then with the line of business to bring it down to their level. Pretty concrete and operational, and not just flooding them with buzzwords and new technology landscapes and all that stuff, but it's more make it easy. Since what they're looking for is not a technical solution, they would like to have something which is easy to run, which has an user interface, which is easygoing. And I do think that marketing, sales, and service, probably particularly marketing and sales, are more critical than, for example, people working in the finance department. They are more accustomed to nasty interfaces in comparison to marketing and sales. So interface should be good, easy be integrated, and just make it play like all my applications I have at home. And Uwe said it, and I completely agree with you, Uwe. So the B2C scenarios, yeah, make it easy to consume, easy to digest, easy to implement, is some sort of a showcase straw model also for everything which we need to implement internally.
Daniela, what are your expectations in that regard from SAP?
Well, as mentioned before, it's very important that the simplicity, especially in the CRM environment or the CX environment, is something what has to be specified also with customers, because when we always talking about, and I agree with Ralf, you know, this buzzwording, it has to be a lot of simplicity, easy to use, good usability, but everybody sees it different. And when you have departments working with it who are not so close to the technique, they have a completely another approach with working with that. While it is very sensible for an IT person, says it looks fantastic in the way it is, with a tile here and this thing there, it is for a person who works on a day-to-day basis in sales or in marketing absolutely not logical. And as soon as someone does not see the logic behind it or the added value, they will probably go a step back, and it will make or will bring up big challenges to a company to push the new project or the new solution through and to make it to a success. And that's why it's so important to get the feedback, and also that customers and I mean, we're working on that to get the input and really to specify what is important, what is needed for the different branches, industries, for different customer itself, for all them to see what brings added value to the usability and to the simplicity.
Listening to the customer feedback, that brings us full circle almost back to the beginning of our little discussion. Bob, when you look at where we stand today, what are your expectations, requirements that makes it possible for us to look into a promising future even in difficult times?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the expectations that, if I look at it from a software industry perspective is we have to get back to simplicity. We've lost the factor of simplicity. Applications in this day and age need to be simplistic. They need to be effective and they need to be efficient. Right, and we need to strip away the complexity that has been put into software in this day and age. We need to have an understanding, and empathy around what's happening in the world and with customers today. And I think, it's so important to have, even if it can't be a in-person interaction, more and more interaction with customers is critical in this day and age, so that we really have a clear understanding of what's going on in these difficult times.
Daniela, empathy, is that one of the key words for a promising future?
Definitely, definitely. I couldn't agree more with that, because that's something what is definitely key, and I look very positive in the future, so where we are going to, because since May we are working in a very close relationship, and there's a strong commitment from both sides to move on here and to involve the members of the DSAG and to do with CX a big step forward in the right direction, and I'm definitely positive on that, definitely.
Daniela, gentlemen, thank you very much. It was a very interesting morning for all of us.